Hi, good evening. I think it's a good idea to thank a few people, starting with John and JBM. This month without you two guys, we wouldn't be where we were today. It's been a massive help. But let's start by thanking everyone. Big thanks to those people that have got our equipment around the world, that are relaying it back here for us to process. Big thanks to our patrons as well, and a big thank you to all those people who make the one-off contributions on PayPal. But really what I wanted to talk about was just some of my gripes that I've got in this world with the way it's going. And I think the best place to start with is the furthest place away from this world, which has got to be at the outer market beacons of our solar system. I am confident that there are beacons warning other civilizations to stay away. This is a species that are undeveloped. They have logic, but they don't act on it, and for that reason stay away, because they're killing each other literally. And what are we doing it for? I've had this conversation with my partner tonight just briefly, and I thought, what, I should share these views as well with you guys, because I'm pretty sure that I can relate to some people, not all. Reading the comments the other day were pretty shocking. I'm surprised how much people feel that they should tell me how personally to do what I do or speak the way I do, and I just feel like giving them the bird, the middle finger, and saying, piss off. I'll do things my way. This is my channel. If you don't like it, then why the hell are you here to start with? Why are these people thumbing the videos down constantly? They only come here to thumb it down. And why do they recreate the accounts when they've been kicked off the channel for making abusive remarks? Why do they keep coming back? It's like, are they stalkers? It's just unbelievable. But we do live in a world which is dysfunctional. And despite all the technological advancement which I feel today, I was thinking, it's like I've never lived without it. I've got my iPhone, my laptop, the internet, a car, and I function in this world which is being created by my government, which is a little bit different from other governments in other parts of the world, where they're killing each other left, right and centre, and there's rebellions going on, and there are, like we've seen in the news in Africa, another Ethiopian war. What is it all about, and what is it so hard that we can't all understand that we're all the same? And it's no wonder no one wants to interfere from outside our solar system. I really wish that they would. I wish that God would interact at this point in time, because it is becoming lethal. Today in the UK, they've announced that we've got to start wearing masks again in shops, using public transport, because there's a new variant now out where the double jab doesn't protect you. So you've had 2 vaccines and it still don't protect you against this new variant. But this can continue forever and ever and ever. It's good news for GlaxoSmithKline, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, all the manufacturers of the vaccines. Good news for them, because they get to put 8 billion people on tap for another vaccine, and someone's paying for it, and it's the government. The taxpayer, inevitably, is who's paying for it, us. And I don't know about you, but I'm like pretty sick and tired and fed up of it all right now. Nearly 3 years we're merging into, and we've got to have more vaccines, but they can keep this rolling on forever and ever and ever. It annoys me that when we look at science across a whole, it's just corrupt and sickening to that point. But it's not the only thing that I'm, pissed about. I'm pissed about a lot of things. I'm pissed about, how they will manipulate somebody to join a armed forces in the pretext to protect their nation, and then send them on a conflict for lucrative contracts and businesses. I was talking about this the other day. You're a soldier, you're in the battlefield, and you're being paid £11 to £15 an hour, and within that hour, a conflict could break out. It could get all hot and nasty, and you could kill 7 people that you never knew existed in your entire life, and you did it for less than £15 an hour. How were you protecting your nation at that point? I suppose I'd be a conscientious objector. That's probably what you call me, because I don't think I could pull, just out of the blue, a gun on someone because someone said it was in the national interest to do so. I don't think I could do that. Because if you work it out, within that hour you've killed 5 people, and you got paid £10 an hour for that, or £20 an hour. That was £4 a head. You killed somebody for £4. It's like disgusting. And it's the world we're living in right now. Across the range, there's so many reasons for God to come back, or nations from other worlds to come and visit us and sort us out. It is right for that to happen, and it probably is a reason why we only spend 12,000 years in interglacial periods. It's probably the reason why Homo sapiens only have been on this planet for 45,000 years. Another thing I was thinking about, I do think a lot. I can't help it. I've got an active mind. So another thing I was thinking about was the Sphinx in Egypt that faces the east, watching the sun come up. And with what we've been talking recently on this channel, with the elliptical orbit creating glacial and interglacial periods, I wonder if it was put there for a reason. Let's assume 15,000 years ago we were coming out of a glacial period, and somebody wanted to mark that event, then maybe that was why they built the Sphinx. Let's face it, to this day the Sphinx faces the east, and that's where the sun rises, and it sets in the west at the back of the Sphinx. The pyramids that are alongside the Sphinx don't align, like a lot of people think, with magnetic north. They align with the star constellation, or Polaris star, and therefore it is the rotational axis that they align with, not the magnetic north pole. Let's use some common sense. It could never have aligned with the magnetic north pole, because 1900 years ago the magnetic north pole was in a different position, and even if the magnetic north pole at this moment was closest, and it was recently, not so long back, on the rotational axis, then that would have been a coincidence and nothing more, because there's no way the Egyptians could have knew where it was going to be at a specific point in time. So there is that question. But then if you look in the historical thoughts of people that have pondered what's going on with Egypt, why is the Sphinx appearing to be a lot older than the actual pyramids, and it shows water lines where it's been flooded at points in time. What was it there for, and how old is it? Well, I've seen some artifacts on this planet which date back 17,000 years, and they've all got the same thing in common. Why is our ancestors so obsessed with celestial marks in the sky at night? And what I'm talking about is the Winter Triangle. Betelgeuse, Procyon and Sirius, those three stars that make up that star constellation, the Winter Triangle. Why were they so obsessed with it? It wasn't just that they was obsessed with those three stars, that they also included, whenever they did a diagram, the Orion star constellation, which is just beneath, as you would see in the star constellation at night. If you was looking up at the stars at a specific location on the Earth, you would see the Winter Triangle, those three stars, Betelgeuse, Procyon and Sirius. You'd also see Orion. But why were they so fascinated about those things? And why do these artifacts that come from over 17,000 years, bear the resemblance of a very intellectual species that had more technology than what we're led to believe to have? Carlos Donis is a creator of putting things together in museums for certain events, and he usually selects these unusual pieces, and one of them is like a plate, and on that plate it's got the birth cycle of a human being, but it also shows the male sperm mixing with the female eggs, and in turn that's the way the human being is created. But on this plate it's not just those facts. There's a lot of other facts that they could never have possibly known at that time if we were to think that they was unintelligent. The fact that this thing has been carved in diorite should be the only example that we need to know that there has been intelligent human beings on this planet way before us, because diorite is one of the hardest materials we've got that naturally forms. It's not just that, it's that some of the other artifacts that was found alongside that plate, like these goblets, they have the Winter Triangle on them and the star constellation Orion. But we're talking about a goblet now with them engraved on it in diorite, and there's a couple of things that should spark immediate attention to you. First of all is that where they've carved these little circles to represent these three star constellations of the Winter Triangle and Orion, first of all they glow in dark light, so they're fluorescent. The other thing is that if you put magnetic material inside the goblet, it is like a magnetic blanket. It doesn't allow magnetism to go outside of the object that it's in, which has puzzled a lot of people that have looked at this. So there obviously was a purpose for it being that way, being able to deflect magnetism in the way it does. So if you put a compass inside the goblet, I believe it will not read anywhere true north. Not only that, is that these stars that have been put inside the goblet, do not reflect light. They are photoescent or reflective, or they're like fluorescent. They glow in dark light. So they knew exactly what they was doing, and these things have been proven to be over 17,000 years old, and that puts us before the end of the last interglacial period. So we're just coming out of the last glacial period, basically. And we've been coming out of that period even to this point in time now. There are still glaciers, or maybe until recently, that have been retracting. We are now in a period of time where they're going to start to advance, and our winters are going to become longer and longer. That's in short, that's how things are going to happen, and seasons are going to change because of that. Especially with relationship to our crops that we put in the ground. In some northern latitudes we're going to have to change the crops, and in some northern latitudes we're not going to be able to put crops in the ground because it will be futile, be a waste of an attempt of doing that. It is crazy times, guys. I try to find out as much as I can to relate to you guys on this topic. I really do. And sometimes I sit back and think, this is the worst scenario that it could possibly be for people in our time, and for many that are not aware of it. And then on the back of that, we have all these pandemics as well, which rarely come up. They're not regularly coming up in our history. They do, but they're not regularly coming up. And we have to ask the question about this one that's come up now. Well, there seems to be a lot of smoking guns to say that man created this virus to start with, and now it's got out the bag and it's free to do what it wants. It seems to mutate wherever it wants, and we have really caused a problem for ourselves. Maybe we shouldn't have even been meddling, or maybe the control methods should have been a lot more thorough than what they were. But nevertheless, we are dealing with this situation in the third year coming. Man-made viruses killing men. Corporate wars killing men. And just a real bad, stinky attitude amongst men in general. It's sad. It's a real sad place, and what, we are still bringing up children in this mess. You'd think with the level of intelligence that we've got, if we just exercised a little bit of logic, we could improve things, globally for everyone. We've got the technology to make sure that no one starves on this planet. We've got the technology to make sure no one goes without heating. Yet here in the UK, in the United Kingdom, this glorious, glorious kingdom which is supposed to be once an empire, we are going to have elderly people freeze to death because they've got two choices. They buy food with that little bit of money they've got, or they pay for heating, and neither one of them is equally going to kill them. And it's not just related to this country. I've seen it in Europe when I've visited, in Spain. I've seen it in happening in America. A kilometre line of people queuing for a meal. I've seen it in Canada, Australia. We see this everywhere. What is wrong with us? Why can't we get our act together and sort these little issues out, because they are minute issues? Why can't we fix them? Why are we still hell-bent on killing each other because of our differences or our resources, when we're going to accept the fact that it is our God-given right to the access of whatever resource we need, just like the billion species of animal? If you turn up in a room with 1,000 people with a different outlook on life and different opinions, they're going to say, you are not right, you're broken, there's something wrong with you. But when we as a species turn up in the room with all the other billion species on this planet, and we behave the way we do and change the world the way we do, why do we not understand that we are broken? We don't help the other species. We just seem to act like a virus on the planet and take away from the other species. We're causing them more trouble than whatever trouble they're causing us. We're the problem. We need to look closer at home, the way we're dealing with ourselves. And maybe when we address those facts, maybe people from other worlds will introduce themselves to us. But right now, if we was introduced to other people from other worlds, we'd be embarrassed, especially if we heard the way things are done on their planet. We would feel like we were naked. Yeah, we've got a lot of broken and bitter and wicked people in this world. And we have 1% of this population that feel the rest of us are just dirt and there to be used in order to keep them in their riches and wealth. I think if anyone's got a wide awakening coming to them, it is those few people that will realise that. And they may commit mass atrocities against the majority of the others who are their brothers and sisters, but inevitably it will come back down to them and they will suffer the worst for it. That is guaranteed, because if you are of any intelligent form on this planet, you will realise that there's a plan, and that fate isn't just fate. It isn't just coincidence. It was purposely designed, and we're part of that plan, and the plan was meant to last for millions of years, and it will be, the plan will end the way it was meant to. It ain't going to end right here and now with us. We're just dust on this universe shoes. So when we realise it, maybe we'll wake up to a few things. Maybe we'll last longer. But right now, we're doing a piss poor job of it. Just speaking, from the heart. That's all, guys. You have a good evening. As always, bye for now.